Hi guys, this is Vineet, and in this video we will talk about resource weights and blocks. So let's quickly move over to notes. So today we will talk about resource weights and blocks. So basically whenever we are diagnosing the performance issues, we should take a closer look at the wait time, wait type, wait resource and blocked by values for each process. So let me put some notes. So during performance diagnostics, we should monitor the following values. So what are those values? So let's point them out. What are these values? So these values are, first one is wait time, second one is wait type, third one is waiting resource or wait resource, and the fourth is blocked by. These all columns come under the activity monitor. So we can review the values inside these columns for each of the processes that are running, and most of the process information can be gathered from the data columns uh, returned by various dynamic management view. So let's talk about a few views. So there are various dynamic management views, you can say. So what are these views? So some of the common dynamic management views are sys.dm, OS tasks. Another one is sys.dm, OS waiting tasks. These are basically views which return various kinds of columns. So third one is, you can say, dm exec request. We will talk about all these four in next few minutes. So fourth one is sys.dm execution sessions. So let's talk about what is the usage of this particular dynamic management view, dm underscore os underscore task. So this view basically returns in the instance of the SQL Server. So it provides information about each task that is active in SQL Server or instance of SQL Server, you can say. So let me go ahead and make it a little bolder. And one second. Okay, let's undo it. Let's make it bold. Alright, so let me show you by running this dynamic management view inside SQL Server. So let's go inside SQL Server. So let me type select star from. So here master database is selected. So let me select, although these views come from the master database, but yeah, these are available in all the databases. So for now I've selected Northwind. So what I'm typing is this view name. So it was sysdm/os task. Let's see what information does it provide to us. So we take a look, it provides information about the process, various processes that are running, each task that is active in the instance of a SQL Server. So there are various task states. We had gone through these task states in one of our early videos, so I would suggest you to please go through that video. Alright, so these are the columns task address, session ID, and their execution context ID, host address, etc. So this is one view. Now let's go to the other view. So the other view is system OS waiting task. So basically this view provides us information about, so what does it provide? This view provides us information about the tasks that are waiting on some resource. So basically if we just go by the name, if we see it's for waiting tasks, so it provides information about the tasks that are currently waiting. Let's try to run this as well. So I've copied it. So let me see if I can take you to SQL Server, and let's type this command. Select star from this OS waiting task stored procedure, not a stored procedure but a system table. So it returns information about each task that is waiting for some resource. So these are the tasks which are waiting. So it gives the session ID of the task which is waiting for certain kind of resource, which is indicated by wait type. We are not going into much details over here, but yeah, I'm just giving you the brief description. So these are the tasks which are waiting for certain kind of resource defined by wait type. Let's talk about the next view. Let's go back to notes. So next view gives us information about the requests that is executing within the SQL Server. So these are execution requests. If you go by the name, these are execution requests. So it provides us information on each request that is executing within SQL Server. Same way we can also run this system. We can get information from this table. Let's do it. So dm underscore execution request is the table name. Let's see. I don't know why it has not highlighted it as green, but yeah, it should run. So it is saying to me that this does not exist. So maybe this this table is deprecated, so that's why the object does not exist. Otherwise, if we go by spellings, these are correct. So this is not available. This management view is not available in this version of SQL Server. So another view which is available is sys.dm underscore exec underscore sessions. So this is the one, and this view basically returns information about each authentication session within the SQL Server. So here if we can see, it, this table basically provides us the authentication information, who all the users that are logged into the system and all. So their security IDs and all. So for example, this is the server name, and through Management Studio I'm running it as Vineet. So it is saying to us that I am authenticated within the SQL Server. So this is my user account. It is showing as running. So I am currently authenticated within the SQL Server. So basically we can use the activity monitor if we just talk about activity monitor, it provides a good overview, but we may sometimes use these dynamic management views, these four dynamic management views, to get more detailed information about the processes, resource weights, and any kind of resource blocks. So, uh, in our earlier videos, we had talked about how you can open up the activity monitor. So, if we right click on the server name, we can select the activity monitor. So, under the activity monitor, we had seen there is a panel for resource weights. We can expand on that. So it basically gives us information on what all kind of resources on if they are waiting on something or not. So these are some of the columns which are wait category, wait time, recent wait, average, waiter count, and cumulative wait time as well. So this panel provides additional information about resource weights. So things are getting populated. And now let's discuss about some of the columns here. So one of the columns is wait time in milliseconds per second, ms per sec. So it basically the wait time indicates the accumulated wait time per second. So how much is the waiting time per second? And the rate of like 300 milliseconds indicates that 3 tasks on an average are waiting within this wait category. So on the left hand side, we see certain kind of wait categories which are buffer IO, waiting for buffer IO, buffer latch, waiting for a lock to get over, waiting for logging, memory, network IO, and other kind of wait. These are some of the wait categories. And here, if we have a time like 3000 millisecond per second, so on an average it means 3 tasks are waiting for. So for example, suppose if under buffer IO we see 3000 milliseconds per second as wait time, so it means that 3 of the tasks are waiting for buffer IO on an average. And next column is the recent wait time, and it shows the wait average of accumulated wait time per second. So it is constantly changing. Earlier it was 4, now it is 1. And this basically combines all the wait times over the last several minutes and averages them for this particular kind of wait category. And next is the average waiter count, and it shows the average number of waiting tasks per second for this wait category. So for example, for buffer IO, so average number of waiting tasks are 2, 3 of the tasks are currently waiting for buffer IO per second. And the cumulative wait time shows the total amount of wait time for this wait category. So it shows 162 seconds as the cumulative wait time for this buffer IO. And since the time SQL Server was started, all the wait statistics were reset. So let me tell you how we can reset this table or the wait statistics. So let me quickly run one of the queries. We had talked about this query in our earlier video as well, but yeah, let me show you how I can run it quickly. So the query is dbcc SQL perf, and within brackets this is a function, and we need to use this dynamic management view. So dmos wait stats is the dynamic management view, and what we want to do is we want to clear out these wait stats, so we will pass the clear parameter. So let's run this. It will clear out that resource waiting table, resets that table. So this is done. Let's take a look at the resource weights. So this should disappear and should reappear again. Let's see if something happens. So yeah, now it is clear. So right now it's aggregating the stats from scratch. So counters are reset. So just take a note of this command, which is used to clear the resource weighting stats, the stats under the resource weights column. So yeah, dynamic management view is DMOS wait stats, and the parameter to be passed is clear to this function SQL performance. Now to get a clear picture on resource weights and blocks, you can use another kind of view. In order to check resource weights and blocks, you can in fact use another view as well. So let me show you. So if we do select star from, there's a dynamic management view which is sys dot dm underscore transaction logs. So yeah, here it is. You can select from here and run this. So again, this this is a transaction logs view which you can use to see the resource type and various other columns. So basically in this table we can see resource weights and blocks. We can do a select star from sys dot dm underscore tran underscore logs. So there are various columns written within these views. So let's talk about some of the columns here. So the first column is request session ID. So let's try to locate that there are certain column for resource and there are certain column for request. So if we talk about first column, we are talking about request session ID. This is the column. So session ID is 51. This is basically the process ID of related user process within the SQL Server. So we can get like this information. We can run sp underscore who is active. I hope this is working. This must be working here. So let's execute it. So yeah, the stored procedure is not here. So you can type who2 sp underscore who2 is a stored procedure to see what is there inside the 51. So there is PEDs. So let's talk about this PED 51, which is beneath, and it is running against the Northwind database, and the command it is executing is select into or something. So let's go again. So the 51 was the process ID or session ID, you can say. So let's go back. So we have talked about the request session ID column, who has requested that lock. Another column we can take a look at is the resource associated entity ID. So let's quickly go to that column. So this one is resource associated entity ID, and this is basically the ID of the entity with which are resources associated. So here it is not associated with any entity. Next column we can check is request execution context ID. So let's try to locate. So this is the context ID. This is 0. And this is the ID of the thread associated with the process ID. Right now it's indicating 0. So I think there are no threads associated. And there is another column request ID. So this is the column. So this column indicates the batch ID associated with the process ID. So right now there are no batch IDs associated with the process ID. So the process is not executing batches of code. And let's talk about the resource type column, which is the first column. So here we are taking a look at the database resource. So this lock is basically indicating a lock on the entire database. If we see resource type as database and we see request type as lock, which means it is a request to put a lock on entire database. Another type of resource type can be RID, which is a row identifier used to lock a single row within the table. So sometimes we see instead of database we will see RID, which indicates a lock on a single row within the table. Another type of resource can be key. So Let me show you something. So guys, let's continue on the resource type. We were talking about resource type. So there are some of the resources. So RID is the, if the resource type is RID, this indicates a row identifier, which is used to lock a single row within a table. Another type of let me make some notes here. So these are basically resource types. So one of the resource type can be RID. So right now if we look inside the table, it's database as resource. So one of the resource can be RID, another resource type can be key, which indicates give me a sec guys. So guys, we were talking about the key resource, which indicates a row lock within an index. And another type of resource can be a page resource, which indicates a lock on data or index page. We will learn more about the concept of pages in one of our upcoming videos. So right now page indicates a lock on either the data or an index page. And the let's talk about extent. One extent is equivalent to 8 pages. So if the resource type is extent over here and a lock is made on the resource type extent, it indicates a lock on continuous group of 8 data pages. So yeah, we were talking about the 8 data, or you can say index pages. So we were talking about extent. One extent is equivalent to 8 pages. So far we have discussed about 4 type of resource types on which locks can be made. Another type of resource can be a table, which indicates a lock on the entire table. Another type of resource type or resource category can be database, which is showing up below. And this indicates a lock on entire database. Another type of resource type can be metadata, on which a lock can be made, and it indicates a lock on descriptive information about the object. We'll talk about detail about these type of resources later. Yeah. So metadata basically indicates an information about certain objects. So here the lock can be made on metadata or the descriptive information about the object, and also the lock can be made on allocation unit as well, and it indicates a lock on allocation unit page, count statistics, and during the deferred drop operations. The last type of resource type can be HOBT, which is basically indicates a lock on basic access path structures for heap or index. All right. Now let's talk about some of the other columns as well. So if we take a look at the second column, it indicates a resource subtype. So which basically indicates a log subtype, and it frequently uses metadata logs. So for database, we don't generally see this resource type information. This column gets populated if a resource type is metadata. We get some subtype as well. And if this column is populated, it indicates certain kind of metadata logs to identify metadata log activity. The third column, or we can say fourth column, is the resource description, and it gives the optional descriptive information. Right now nothing is coming here, and there's a request mode as well, which is, now let's talk about the request modes. So right now request mode is S, which means shared access mode. So let's talk about the access modes as well, as there are various type of access modes. So one type of access mode can be S, which stands for shared, and it is basically used for read-only operations, such as you can say select statements. Okay. Another type of request mode can be U, which is the update. And this type of request mode can be used when reading, or you can say locking an update resource during updates. And basically this lock is made to prevent certain kind of deadlock situations. All right, so let's talk about next type of access mode, which is X, and X stands for exclusive lock mode or access mode or the request type, and it means exclusive. X stands for exclusive, and it basically allows only one session, or you can say one tab. Each tab is a session, so this is a session. This is a session. SQL query 1 SQL is a session. So session ID comes at the bottom pane. So here if we see 51 is our session ID, it's showing up in bracket over here. So if a log is kind of exclusive log, allows only one session to update the data. No updates can be made from multiple sessions. And it is used during the modification operations. So if an update is made to certain column, so an exclusive lock is obtained. Exclusive locks can be obtained in the situation where there are operations like insert, update, or delete. And another type of access requested can be I, which is basically intent, and it is used to establish a lock hierarchy. We'll talk about lock hierarchies later. There are various other type of resource type IDs as well. Let's see if we can go in detail, or otherwise I will skip it. Another type of access mode can be SCHS, which stands for schema stability. We are not discussing about much over here about this type of access mode over here, and basically it is used when checking the table schema. Another type can be schema M. So schema is for schema stability, schema M is for schema modification, and another type can be BU, which is the lock that is made during the bulk update operations, or bulk copying operations, you can say. When we do certain kind of operations like bulk copying data into certain table. Next type of lock can be ranged locks. So range s underscore s. So it's written like this. So this stands for a serializable. So yeah, we're talking about range s underscore s, which basically stands for serializable range scan, and this lock is made during this operation, the serializable range scan, and it is used with shared resource locks on shared ranges. The other type of access mode as well, let me type them quickly. I'm not discussing them here. So there are many type of range locks, but for now we are keeping our discussion till here on range locks. You can read more about them online if like. And now let's talk about the request type. So here the request type is the type of object requested. So here type of object requested is lock. So let's talk about next column, which is request status. So next column is request status. So here it is saying a lock is granted on the database to SPID 51 to a process. So this process is a lock on, shared lock on basically, and not an exclusive lock on the database. And the request status is the request is granted, or the lock was obtained. Another type of request statuses can be, let me discuss other type of request status. So another type of request status apart from grant is wait. So the lock is which indicates the lock is currently blocked, and another type of request status can be CNVT, which indicates the lock is converted or is being converted. So basically converting means that a lock is in one mode, but yeah, it is waiting to acquire a stronger lock mode. Now let's talk about the uh, owner type column. Let's move there. So let's see if we see owner type. So we have a request owner type, yeah. So that indicates a owner type. So owner type here is shared transaction workspace, which indicates the lock owner is a shared portion of the transaction workspace. And another type of request owner type can be a session, which indicates a lock owner is a user session. And another type of request owner type can be a transaction, which indicates a lock owner is a transaction. And there is also exclusive transaction workspace, which indicates a lock owner is the exclusive portion of a transaction workspace. So let's leave this column and come to the owner ID. So if we talk about next column, the owner ID is 0. So this basically indicates the owner ID associated with the lock, and then there is owner GUID. So right now it's 0, so no owner is associated, and it is basically a globally unique identifier of the owner associated with the lock. So right now no owner is associated, so everything is 0. Next item is resource database ID. So let's see, where is resource database ID. So here resource database ID is 5. So we are using Northwind database. So resource database ID is 5 for that. So basically it indicates the database which is containing the lock. And the next column can we can study is resource associated entity ID. Right, so right now it's 0. So it basically indicates the name of the object being locked. Alright, so we are done with this topic. So I'm stopping it here. Let me go back to my notes. Let's see what we can cover in our next video. So in our next video, we will talk about the deadlock and blocking connection. So for this video, we are keeping it till here. So in this video, we have talked about the resource weights and blocks. We have studied various kind of tables and especially the table column names that we have received using this particular system management view. And we have discussed about various columns within this table, and we have talked about these columns, specifically the resource types on which a logs can be obtained and access mode of the logs, and apart from that what is the current status of the request. So yeah, we are keeping it till here. In next video we will talk about this, how we can look into the deadlocks and the blocking connections and troubleshoot those things. So I thank you so much for your time, and guys, please do like this video and subscribe to my channel to get any future updates. Thank you.